በአቢይ ይልማ ሚዲያ ተዘጋጅቶ ይቀርብልዎታል። ሳድስ ሰላምና ጤና ፍቅርን በረከትን ያድልን። ክቡራትና ክቡራን የሣድስ ቤተሰቦቻችን እንደምን አላችሁ? እንደምን ስቆያችሁልን? ያላችሁ በሣድስ የሚዲያ ዝግጅታችን ላይ ነው። ዛሬ ከጎኔ በጣም በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ላይ ትልቅ ደረጃ ላይ ካሉ ጋዜጠኞች መካከል በጣም ትልቅ ሰው ይዤላችሁ ቀርብ ያለው የአይኤልቲቪ በሚል የሚታወቅ የእስራኤል ሚዲያ አለ። እንደገናም ደግሞ በአሜሪካ በእስራኤል ብዙ ልምድ ያላት እንደገና ደግሞ የኢየሩሳሌም ፖስት በሚል የሚታወቅ ትልቅ ሚዲያ አለ። በዛ ላይ ብዙ ጊዜ በሪፖርት ሰርታለች። ብዙ አቅምና ዓለም አቀፍ ተደማጭነት ካላቸው ጋዜጠኞች መካከል ትገኛለች።
Last night, our editor-in-chief, Maayan Hoffman, traveled to the north following Israel's preemptive strike against Lebanon and Hezbollah's smaller retaliatory attack. She went to capture the sights, sounds, and reactions of the people. Maayan is now joining us in the studio today to speak about her experience. Maayan, I wanted to ask you, what is the atmosphere like right now up north?
It was honestly eerily quiet throughout all the streets. I drove up there, it was towards nighttime, and nobody was out. I went into the community of Katsrin, the community that last week on Wednesday was targeted, if you remember, by dozens and dozens of rockets, many fires, direct hits. And normally when you go into the center of town in Katsrin, it's packed, full of people, pizza shops, restaurants. Nobody almost was there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
I'm happy that you have been here in Ethiopia.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Wow. How many times have you come here and visited Ethiopia?
This is my second trip to Ethiopia. I was here a couple of years ago as well.
Oh, how's the difference?
Well, it's very different because last time I was here, I was not in Addis at all. I actually went to Gonzer and to some of the other villages around and accompanied a group of Ethiopians who were making Aliyah, who were moving to Israel. And this time I'm here for the parliamentary summit, so it's a very different experience and a very different community.
You love Ethiopia or you don't love?
So far, I've enjoyed it very much. I mean, both visits have been wonderful. The people I like the most. I've really enjoyed getting to know the people in both visits. Last time I went into a lot of people's homes and was able to learn more about them, and I really enjoyed understanding the culture. And so, yeah, no, I really like it here, and it's beautiful.
Because Ethiopian and Israelites' culture, tradition, historical backgrounds, everything has been connected for long ages, like 3,000 years. So being Israel, means for Ethiopia is very much near, because we love Israel. Many Ethiopians are every year going to Israel for, spiritual travels. So I'm very happy that you have been here. I already have told to my audience that you have been working as a journalist. How many years have you served being as a journalist, and you are a content creator, and I just see some CEO positions you have got in media, and now you are working on ILTV, Israel's media.
Correct.
I watch ILTV, I read your articles on the Jerusalem Post, and you have so many years experience, I believe. And tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm going to age myself
now. Am I right?
You are right. Unfortunately, you are right.
Yeah.
I've been working in the field for almost 30 years.
Wow.
I'm American originally, and I worked in the United States as well as in Israel over the different years. My last role before ILTV is, as you said, at the Jerusalem Post, where I was news editor, but also the deputy CEO of strategy and innovation, and I worked to really move the news agency forward while also reporting and writing and working to handle the newsroom. And today I'm the editor-in-chief at ILTV, which is Israel Television in English, and we are projecting our content goes out to 11 different news stations in the United States. We're on Ynet English, which is one of the largest Israeli news websites, but has an English version, and we also have a very robust YouTube page, so we're reaching about 1 million people a day with our videos.
I just watch the ILTV, and the news has been broken from the ILTV. All matters, because Israel's big news is expected to be, outbroken by ILTV. I listen, I watch the TV. Even on YouTube and everything, I just watch. And even something news is expected to be coming out of ILTV. And I wonder, and I appreciate that you're being the CEO in that
biggest media, I believe. How many years have that media been established?
ILTV is only about a decade old, and before, the Jerusalem Post is more than 90 years old. It's from before the founding of the State of Israel. ILTV started a decade ago with the idea of really reaching a Jewish community, but over the years what has happened is that we're actually reaching a very diverse community, and certainly about 50% of our readership is Jewish, but the other 50% is mostly Christian Zionists, people who are interested in learning about the State of Israel.
Wow. I think this is a time, the very moment that Israel is at war. That area, that this time, wartime period, I think has put many jobs, many activities, occupation, everything on media like ILTV. That's right, which means because you have got challenges as a media reporting, you have got challenges to be fair, because what's going on the ground and what you must be going to air, all the matter is a challenging moment. And I hear your news, you always try to report the Israel's government has said this, the Israel has done this, the Hamas has done this, everything. The news, I just listen, a fair reporting. But is that not challenging as a media person?
It's extremely challenging. I mean, I think today one of the unfortunate challenges for the media is that it's okay. They think it's okay to be biased. And so you watch some stations and you know where they're coming from, whether it's the right or the left, whether it's pro-Palestinian or pro-Israeli. And I think it's a problem. We are Israel-based. We sit in Rishon LeZion. It's near Tel Aviv. We report the news out of Israel, but we try very, very hard to be balanced and to be able to see what is going on and just report the facts. We use our interviews. We bring in a lot of different analysts in order to explain the news, and we use them to help interpret it. But us as reporters, we try very hard never to put our opinion inside the news. But in this day and age, I think for any media outlet it's difficult. And in an area like Israel, where everything is so intense and we're in the middle of an 11-month plus war, it's even more difficult.
More difficult, because at the ground, what you see, as I'm an Ethiopian journalist, what's going on the ground, and I just want to report. How can I make balances? Because my spirit tells me something, reality, and what's to be outletted. Also, there's a big question with this. So how can I make things, make balance it? Always is in the media challenging. How do you see the Israel's challenge now at this very moment, like the war with Hamas, and how everything is going on now? And what do you expect in the near time to come?
Sure. Well, look, for the state of Israel right now, we're still entrenched in what is, as I said, an over 11-month war. We have 101 hostages still sitting in Gaza. We know around 36 of them are dead, but the rest we hope are still alive. We want to bring them home. But right now, the ceasefire talks are at a standstill. America has said that the proposal that they promoted is no longer viable for Hamas. They aren't interested in signing that ceasefire. The Israeli public wants to get those hostages home. At the same time, we have an extreme security challenge, whether you're talking about the Philadelphia corridor, which is the corridor between Gaza and Egypt, and all the weapons that for decades, really 2 decades, have been smuggled in through that corridor are the same weapons and the same materials that were used to attack us and kill 1,200 people on October 7th. We have other areas where we have been able to, over the course of 11 months, take control, and in any of these agreements, they're asking us to leave. The question is, can we do that? And what does that mean? Will there be another, God forbid, October 7th, if we relinquish some of that control? On the other hand, how do you not sign some kind of deal and bring those hostages home? So Israel is really stuck in some ways between a rock and a hard place. But we have to remember, it's not just Hamas. We're fighting Hezbollah in the north. We actually just in the last couple of days, we've made a strategic decision that we're going to reduce the manpower in Gaza and focus more on the north in order to return the 65,000 residents who are displaced from their homes in the north. We have the Houthis not only attacking our ships, but attacking Western ships through throughout the Red Sea. We've got issues, in the West Bank, in Judea and Samaria, where there's a lot of intensity and terrorism. We know Islamic Jihad and Hamas have infiltrated into Tulkarem and Ramallah, and there's a lot of challenges with a weakened Palestinian Authority. So there's a lot of fear that we could have a multi-front war. We have one, but erupt in an even greater scale. And our soldiers, they're not tired. They have energy. We always have energy. Israel will fight, but it's very difficult for the Israeli public. We're constantly, in times of intensity, but this last one was worse than anything. From even a mental and emotional health perspective, we know that the majority of Israelis, or at least more than half of the Israelis, are suffering from either post-traumatic stress disorder or anxiety or depression. We're seeing 80% of our children having challenges, needing to seek professional help, yet we don't have enough help to give them. So we're really in a very difficult state right now and need world support. But of course, while we need world support, and we're here in Africa, in a place where we are getting actually support today at the Israel-Africa Parliamentary Summit, the majority of the world is not necessarily providing that support at this time.
Yeah. I understand. I just really understand, because now Israel is facing the war with Hezbollah. And even we expected Iran is coming to directly attacking. They tried, but we expected recently to come directly attacking. As we are listening these days, that Iran is helping missiles to Russia, and still the war is indirectly affecting Israel, we know. And the proxies of Iran are just coming, focusing on to destabilize the society's, background, his, lifestyle and everything. The world understands that. And everybody around that has become, looks like enemy to attack Israel that way. Even the Hamas over there, the Hezbollah here, from Syria, from Iraq, from West Bank, from here Houthis, every war is focusing to Israel. That is really for the world, not also for Israel, but for the world too. It disturbs everything. Our economy is based on the Red Sea. That area has already been disturbed now. Everything you see in the world is disturbed because of that center. So we understand everything is going on. That's best now in Africa. You are having helps and hands from Africa, like in this session, like it's Africa and Israel, a greatest moment, parliamentary summit. It has been established here in Addis Ababa for September 10th and 11th, the 2 days we have been here. Now I'm very happy to meet you back in here. Then how do you get that help out of, first, Ethiopia, and second, from the 40 nations you have invited to Addis Ababa? What kind of help does Israel expect?
Well, I think the value of a summit like this is that we're bringing parliament members together. And parliament members are influential. They can influence in their own parliaments, and they can influence in the United Nations, and they can influence in the International Criminal Court of Justice. And what Israel needs right now is to have good, strong allies who can fight for it. In Addis, it's the African Union. Sits in Addis Ababa. This is the place where all of these African nations come together and judge. It has not always been. There have been times of positive relations and times of less positive relations, as we know. And it's very, very important for Israel to have strong ties with Africa. There are many things that we have in common. There are many ways that we can help each other. Already I had a wonderful interview with one of the delegates from Malawi today who explained to me about a labor contract that we have where we're going to be bringing over 10,000 Malawi workers by the end of the year to work in agriculture and industry and construction, which is something that we really need and that really benefits the Malawi economy. So it's a win-win. And there are many opportunities for that between our nations: technology, water, climate, security. It could go on and on. When you talk about the International Criminal Court of the United Nations, sometimes we see the African nations stand with Israel and sometimes we don't in their voting. The record is not great. By bringing a conference like this together and reminding people, number one, about our faith that ties us together and why we have such a historic and a faith-based reason to support one another, that is important. Beyond that, again, the ability to collaborate, the future of Africa is in Israel. Israel has a future with Africa, and I think this conference highlights that in a very positive way. So what I want to see come out of this is that this doesn't end in 2 days, but that new and more collaborations come out of this event, and that we're able to see this help us, again, not only from the practical economic standpoint, but in some of these international bodies where we really need these parliamentarians to influence their colleagues and to help vote for Israel so that we can not feel that we are demonized in the world.
Wow. አድማጮቻችን ፕሮግራማችን ይቀጥላል። ወደ ሁለተኛው ክፍል አልፈላችኋለሁ። ሁለተኛው ክፍል እንግዲህ በሙያዋ ኦሬዲ በጣም የሚገርም ሙያ ያላት ጋዜጠኛ ናት ሆፍማን እና እሷን መሰረት አድርጎ ሁለተኛው ክፍል ላይ ቀጥልላችኋለሁ። ሙያዊ ጥያቄዎችን ጠይቃታለሁ። አሁን ካለው ዓለማቀፍ ሁኔታ ጋር ተያይዞ እንደ ባለሙያ ከሷ ጋር ቆይታ አድርጋለሁ። ወደ ክፍለ ዝግጅታችን እናልፋለን። አሁንም ያለሁት በአፍሪካ እስራኤል ፓርላሜንታሪ ሰሚት ላይ ነው ያለሁት። በጣም የሚገርም ጊዜ ነው ያሳልፈን ያለነው። ብዙ መረጃዎች አግኝቻለሁ። ብዙ አፍሪካ ላይ ተጽዕኖ የፈጠሩ ትላልቅ ሰዎችን አግኝቻለሁ። ፕሮግራማችን ይቀጥላል። አሁን ወደ ክፍለ ዝግጅታችን አብረን እናልፋለን። Coming the second version of our interview. Now I want to focus on your journalistic information you have, because you have been experiencing like for more than decades in your journalistic profession. So I focus 3 best questions I have. First, do you think Israel has got an influence like any others, like America, France, everybody coming to the East Africa, settle here, get the East African nations together, use their power? For example, recently, Ethiopia is in political crisis with Egypt in East Africa. Egypt has come and has already been placed here to have East African influence, because this is a very great road, a very important area. This area, the Red Sea area, is very dynamic, as you know. It's historically dominating. Still now, it's influencing like 40% of the world's economy is making transaction in this area. So many countries have come here in East Africa and established their economy, their influence. First, do you believe Israel has got that connection in East Africa plus in the rest of Africa? Because it is a geopolitical issue. Do you believe this?
I believe that we are starting to have more and more. Look, historically, we did have a very strong connection to Africa. And it goes back, as we talked about before, thousands of years. There's been ups and downs in terms of our collaboration. There's a lot of collaboration that's happening that we don't talk about. That's kind of under the radar right now in certain countries where there is not as outward relations. But I do believe that Israel sees that this is where it needs to be, and that there are huge opportunities for collaboration. And I think that we're going to be seeing more and more of that, not just because of the summit, but because of the work that is happening, in our governments.
Do you believe more assignments are left to be done?
Oh, sure. Yes, there's much more to be done. I mean, I work with a number of, reported on a number of organizations that are doing work in Africa, that are working to either train or bring people over, that are establishing economic ties, whether it's in the agriculture is a big one, climate change, which is huge, and it's going to be impacting the whole world. There are many, many opportunities for us to work together.
Second question. Do you believe this area, this war in Israel, coming out an all-out war? Do you believe? Do you think?
Do I think there'll be an even larger regional war?
Yeah.
I want to believe no. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. A lot of it depends on Iran, as we know, and what happens with the head of the snake, as we call it. Right now, in Israel, it feels like a regional war because, as I mentioned, we have multi-fronts going on. But in terms of erupting throughout the Middle East, the hope, I believe, is that, and nobody wants a regional war. Maybe Iran does, but most of the leaders do not. And the hope is that at some point we will sign something that will at least let us a ceasefire or die down a little bit. We know that if we sign something with Gaza, for at least the time being, Hezbollah will stop sending rockets, the Houthis will stop. They want to bring some peace. Well, what that means, though, is if we don't maintain security, this war is not over. So even if we do manage to, let's say, take the temperature down, we will have to either preemptively or otherwise attack and get control of the region. Otherwise, there will be another war in a very short time.
Wow. The last question. What do you advise for the relationship between Ethiopia and Israel?
Look, Ethiopia and Israel have a historic relationship, especially because the Jewish community that sits in Ethiopia, many Ethiopian Jews have come on Aliyah, they've moved to Israel, and they're really a part of society. We're all one society of Israel. It's a mosaic, as we call it. And I think there are more still to come over, and there's a tremendous amount of collaboration. Again, the capital sits here, right in Addis, and so I think that where we are and the ability for us to work with the authorities here in Ethiopia is essential for us to be able to work with the rest of Africa. And so I do believe that there's an opportunity for incredible ties. Our new ambassador here, we just sent a new Israeli ambassador to Ethiopia a couple of weeks ago. He has very deep ties to the Ethiopian local community, worked very hard on that in the government, and I believe there's a lot of good things that are going to come out of him.
Wow. I really appreciate, and I just want to say thank you for everything. አድማጮቻችን ፕሮግራማችን በዚህ ይቋጫል። እንግዲህ ሆፍማን በጣም መወዳት ጋዜጠኛ ናት እንደነገርኳችሁ በብዙ መልኩ ረጅም ጊዜ ከመወዳቸው ጋዜጠኞች መካከል አንዷን እሷን እዚሁ አዲስ አበባ በአካል ስላገኘዋት ደግሞ ወዳጅም ስለሆነን በጣም ደስ ብሎኛል። ስለዚህ በቀጣይ ደግሞ ሌላ ፕሮግራሞችን ከሷ ጋር የተያያዙ እሷም ደግሞ መታገዘን ነገሮች በሌሎች ፕሮግራሞች ላይ ላስደምጣችሁ ላካፍላችሁ ወዳለው ለዚህ ፕሮግራም መምህርና ጋዜጠኛ አቢይ ይልማ አብራችሁ ቆይታ አድርጌያለሁ። ዕውቀት ታላቁ እግዚአብሔርን ታከብራለች።
በአቢይ ይልማ ሚዲያ ተዘጋጅቶ ይቀርብልዎታል። ሳድስ